This is Morning at NTV, and thank you for staying with us. My name is Romeo Busiko. I have a very fast conversation. One of the first people to try and make a linkage between Church of Christ and policy planning in Uganda was Joseph Kabuleta, a member of Prophet Elvis Mbonye's Zoe Fellowship. He suggested government should actually fund pastors and make use of their prophecies. Wow, for planning purposes. Now, my next guest wants to go further and actually get government to use prophecy in disaster preparedness and other government plans. Mr. Collins Tugumi-Sidize joins me right now in studio. Very good morning. Thank you for coming.
Good morning. Thank you.
Now, just to mention, Mr. Tugumi-Sidize, Colin, is also actually an economist and a consultant in that regard. So, Mr. Colin,
yes,
you're an economist and a consultant.
That's
when
right.
it comes to your work, when you do your assessments, you base on facts to come up with your assessments. But then here you have a prophet, Elvis Mbonye, using hypothesis to tell the country that, yes, A, B, C, D is going to be happening in the next couple of years. Now, you as an expert who uses facts, how come you jumped onto this bandwagon and you actually believe the pastor?
Oh, well.
What makes you so sure that these prophecies will actually come into play?
That's a very good question. Because
Prophet
scientists,
Elvis Mbonye.
yeah, the
Yes.
prophet. Very important that he's a prophet.
Yes.
Because a prophet is different from a pastor and the like. Just like you have a doctor, a lawyer, and in the professional world, academia.
Pastors focusing on the Bible,
Yes, on the Bible,
teaching people the Bible,
exactly.
the past, but the
Yes.
prophet focusing on
the future, yes.
Okay.
Of what will happen. Those are different spiritual gifts. Just like you have a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, they have different professions, and it's important to distinguish.
The remnants attacked me so very, very badly when I called him a pastor.
But it's
go ahead,
just an
Colin.
information
Yes.
gap. Yeah, but that's a very good question.
Yes.
The reason why scientists, you know, in science, you have to look at data, at the past, what has happened. So if you don't have data, one of the sources of data is, has somebody predicted things before and they have happened? So if you have an economist who analyzes data but gives you a conclusion about the future, 10 years down the line, and you see nothing is actually happening according to his analysis, why should you believe him? It should be very simple. If somebody is a medical doctor and is treating you constantly, but you're never recovering, why should you constantly believe him that he's a what? A medical
Switch
doctor.
the hospital.
Exactly. You switch the hospital, go to another place until you hear, and normally people hear stories, and they say, that doctor treated so-and-so, treated so-and-so. They don't know their papers. They don't know whether they got an A or a B. They don't know whatever it is, but they know people have healed. In the same way, when you hear somebody is telling you about the future 5 times, so many times in 5-year span, and they're happening, now you start to listen and say, if he now tells me what's going to happen next year, that's when I said, and that is scientific, as simple as it is. You don't complicate it. Yes. Trend analysis. What happened before? Has he been doing this? What did he say? How, did he say it in public? Was it recorded? Did people, was there witnesses? Good, that is scientific. Now, that's a reason for credibility and assessment. Just like business, a businessman who tells you, I know all the business principles, but cannot make the money. Then you say, why should I listen to you if you're not making the money? I want to listen to the one who is making it.
So let's get some of the details the prophet shared on the 7th of January. He did say that, first of all, let's start with the European Union. He did say that there's going to be a lot of economic crisis in the European Union after the United Kingdom leaves the European Union.
That's right.
So what do you make of this? And where did he come up? How did he come up with this assessment?
Well, you need to understand that they are gifts, and spiritual and talent gifts. If someone is very good at soccer or something like that, it's not because they went to a school and how did they do it. You just see the talent and it's proven. The results should always tell you. And when you follow results, it gives you a trend analysis that I can count on this person's delivery. Whichever way he does it, I don't know, but is it working? That's all I care. Okay, so it's not, so let's not get into how he got into it or not.
Yeah.
But the fact that it has come, and in the past he's given things like you know, the appointment of a policewoman to the cabinet, and then it happened a year before. He talked about the Oscars and happened. Boris Johnson. Then he also prophesied Trump when everybody thought Hillary Clinton would win. So that is enough. A lot more others. So that's enough to prove that we need to start hearing.
But even me as a political analyst had emphasized Boris Johnson to make it to the, as Prime Minister of Britain in that regard. I also emphasized Trump to win the 2016 election. But does that make me a prophet?
No, you see, the difference is...
I understand that you sit down, you analyze political events, and then you come up with, you understand precedents, and then you know what is going to happen next. Is he actually analyzing these issues as an analyst or as a prophet?
Good question. Well, if the way a spiritual gift works or so is that somebody can literally see. There are other people who do the same, like psychics, can see. Stanford has done a study of people called paranormal, people who have supernatural and the like, because CIA was using them, and CIA wanted to, and as well as American government, because they wanted to improve on their intelligence data for accuracy. So they asked Stanford to conduct a study into how they can transfer these skills. They call them skills or talents to other people, so that they're not relying on a few people and the like. And they confirmed that these kind of gifts improved intelligence by 33% to 40%, 33 to 40%. How they pick up on it. Let me use a simple example: instinct. Yeah, a mother is here at work, and then she feels that something's not going on well at home, and then you say, "Come on, everything is okay. You left everything in there." But then she goes home and she confirms that actually something went wrong. How did she figure it out?
She used intuition.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So that's now a gift. Now, when you ask a man, most men don't use intuition. They'll say, nothing's going wrong, unless you get a phone call. But then sometimes you're interviewing somebody, and you just feel like, I don't want to do this deal with this person. I have no reason. All the papers are right, but I just feel inside. How do you explain that? And then later on, you discover that your judgment was accurate. So you see what I mean? So we know in the world of anywhere business that there is an extra element, and some people have it so advanced that they can be very precise and specific and sure. When scientists, we do data, we are never responsible for our conclusion. We say, we expect, it may be this, if this or that or that. They call it a level of confidence. So you go either 50% level of confidence or 60, depending on how sure you are. Trends.
Because they're also not sure.
They're not sure.
At
they
always
tell you.
At some point, they thought the world was flat, and now it's round.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, now let's talk about these prophecies by Prophet Elvis Mbonye. Starting with the European Union, how will the crisis come about?
Well, once he has told us that there will be a crisis like that, it's already what you call in science, what you can use scientifically as a hypothesis. Now, scientists can sit back and say, if it happens, what if? How ready are we? How do we prepare for it? Where is it likely to come from? Things like that. And because when you see any challenge, if it is in the context of a difficulty, rather not, you can interpret it as an opportunity. So if there is a financial crisis in the European Union, nations, he says nations will be pulling out of the European Union. So that is,
so the
withdrawal
of Britain
perhaps could be a
from the
trigger.
United Kingdom will trigger all the other European countries to start pulling out of the European Union, hence causing a financial crisis.
That could be an indicator. Yeah, because you cannot be from data, you can't quite tell that will happen that way, that others will pull out. But now that he has said it, we need to start thinking, what do we do to prepare? Is there opportunity for us in that situation? If we've been depending on the European Union, what do we do? For example, it helps a lot of our foreign policy significantly. And this is very futuristic, is most important for national strategy and very important for policy planning, these kind of things. And I can assure you, every leader consults not just experts, but people who have proven to have those kind of skills, intuition, spiritual gifts, and the like.
What if the assessments of the prophet are not that, the prophecies, what if they are not that accurate? Won't it make it hard for planning in the country?
Well, you see, the whole point, as I mentioned to you, is trend. If you have evidence that this has been happening as a trend, it's like if you have a manager of a company and he keeps promising that he will deliver on the company strategy, the numbers, the results. But you're not seeing the numbers. And he's like, he has intellectual ways of explaining why we never made a profit, why we're not growing, why the national economy is not changing if they are the head of economic planning. A time comes when you say, I'm tired of the explanation and the data of why things are not working. I want it done and find out a way. In the same way, so if the whole point is that if he has given you a prediction and there's trend that it has been working, now you start to say, what if? That's the question you use. How ready are we? Okay? And then you can now say, if it does not, what do you lose? You see what I mean? You lose nothing, but you always need to pay it because what if? And in intelligence, the people who provide you with intelligence are not scholars for the national security. Ordinary people, mothers on the street, small people who are on the border who can tell you, I saw this, I saw this. Now, that helps a great deal and can protect a nation from a disaster. Now, that person is not qualified, but are they trustworthy? Are they credible? Was it, that kind of thing. Do you trust what they've said? And then you now say, what do we do? Can we just be ready in the event? Sometimes such a prediction has not given you, like the other things that he predicted, say China. Uganda depends on China a great deal. And he talks about, we've seen demonstrations in Hong Kong. Now he talks about demonstrations in mainland China.
That is a tough one, because even in Hong Kong, you saw what happened. The Chinese government right there sending military to rein in on those students and many other people who are actually demonstrating on the streets of Hong Kong. Now, imagine on mainland China, imagine what they would do. Are we going back to those days of the Tiananmen Square tragedy?
Well, it's alarming. What if it happened? What could happen to both the economy?
The Chinese don't play. And on
Yeah,
mainland China,
yes,
wow.
yes, there's
Wow.
It's a serious government. So wonder how they'll react to it, but also what the system, its stability. We know last year there were a lot of incentives the government did to stabilize the economy. Now, because of Hong Kong issue and also the trade wars. Now, the trade war pinch may
Which
go
is the main
deeper,
issue.
is the main cause, yeah. Actually, the prophet says it's the trade war.
But if the trade war doesn't affect Trump, how will it affect the Chinese? Because some analysts had emphasized that, because of the trade war, farmers might actually decide not to vote for Mr. Trump for re-election in 2020. But then the same prophet, Elvis Mbonye, is saying Trump might win re-election.
That's right.
And then he goes again to say the Chinese might actually face a pinch of riots because of the same trade war. What are the dynamics of that?
You see, after you get out of school and you're in practice in life, you discover that life is more than data, more than facts. What's going to happen is bigger. There are more dynamics at play than what you see. And when you appreciate that, you start to, that's why you can hear people, they call it the wisdom of people who have either elders or who have special gifts and the like. They have a wisdom about figuring out likelihoods and the like. So it's amazing to see. And when you're a leader, you're taking a bet, more like a bet, when you decide. Say, okay, we are going to do this with China. And everybody says, it could affect you as well, a backlash on you. But then it could also work for you. Like everyone was saying, in the event Boris wins, UK will suffer. And the pound will drop, and if it pulls out, if Brexit occurs, so you see, it's like a bet. You're not sure what could happen. But if you have, in addition to your analysis, Anita, you consulted what you can say a prophet, and he gives you, it's kind of called a second opinion, an alternative. Then you can say, okay, I know what the facts say, I know what they say, and sometimes you only have bad choices to make.
Bad choices to make. Let's talk about good choices, though.
Yes.
The opposition in Uganda are planning to field a single candidate come 2021. And the prophet did actually prophesy and actually prove that, hey, yes, indeed, these guys are actually planning to do just that. But then he also prophesied and said one person might pull out. Did he mention any names?
Well, the prophet was not specific about what the opposition would do and the like. He basically just insinuated that there are two groups, of course. We know opposition and power. But then he hinted that at the last minute, it is likely that some high-level profile people in power may shift to opposition. You see what I mean? So that gives you a hint about, and that everybody will ask, how did this happen? How could such a person shift? And he's not specified on who and the like. But this tells you that if you have a track record of what has been happening, and there's a reason also why he's saying, the next thing when someone speaks like that, you want to find out, why is he able? What is his message to the country?
Is it basing on history? Because in 2015, you saw the Democratic Alliance did not work out. Many politicians pulled out. Could he be using the same analysis to say, hey, this coalition might not work out? One candidate might pull out, either Besigye or Bobby Wine.
No. He's not basing on that. He's not basing. I just told you he has a message as well. And he made a call that this is Uganda's opportunity to rise. He said Uganda has a mandate to promote prosperity around the world. He said Uganda has a mandate to promote, and this is the opportune time. So when you see when you see disaster, sometimes you want to know, what's my opportune moment? For instance, he also highlighted the issue of real estate market in Uganda.
Property scandals.
Yeah, and the market collapsing, prices going down. So if you know that and you're in the property business, you want to prepare. And then most important, if you want details, if you want to get an advantage, how do we go around this? Go back to the same man, write to him, ask him for more insight. The way you gave this one, it's just, maybe it's not clear. Can you please give us more insight into this?
And he also says he saw something to do with bushfires, not the ones we are seeing actually right now in Australia.
That's right.
No. He says he sees bushfires, people running amok, and he says in the midst of all that craziness, a new dawn is actually ushered in, and the chosen one is actually decided. Who is the chosen one?
That's a good question. So that's now where we start to figure out, who could that be? What could happen? And because the bushfires will be a sign, then we notice that when they are happening, who is it that the nation is looking at or celebrating at that point? You know, we do not know any of these politicians.
The bushfires, could we be going back to the bush war? Is it something
I don't
that
think so. I don't think it's a bush war. Yeah, just a natural bushfire, just giving you an indicator that when you see this happening somewhere, it could be a random bush, and then suddenly at that timing, the timing, who is it that the country is celebrating the most, or something like that, or who is in the light? And a new dawn, it says, change the old ends and the new come. So there are no specifics to it, but there are signs to sense. You know, where you sense that something is different now, something is going to change.
And he also prophesied that nations will start to reject Uganda.
That's
Donors
correct.
will start pulling out. I mean, it's already happening at a low pace, but he says it's going to be exacerbated because of the heavy-handedness of the government and what will be happening, their activities when it comes to reining in on opposition. Nations will start to reject us because they will actually notice we do not have democracy as it is, and donors will also do the same. How did he come up with that assessment?
So it's not about how he came up with it. It's a fact that he's given based on his credibility, his ability, skill, and the like, how we got it.
So why will they pull out?
But if they pull out, what do we need to do? And then he also gives a reason why. And he says that the nation, the leaders of this nation have not been heeding to what? His advice. So he calls on the nation that he has advice and insights to help the nation steer in a direction. Now, if this is going to happen, you can choose the longer route of doing an impact assessment. If we lose the donor, they fund about more than 40% of our budget. So what do we do? Or if you can go the longer route of talking to them in advance and say, what do we do? Please don't leave us. Or you can directly go to the prophet and say, prophet, what do we do to prevent this from happening so that our economy? He even highlights this kind of thing of, we do all these, where you gather religious leaders to pray for the nation's economy, but the economy is not improving as well. So because everyone has a contribution to make. The academics have a contribution, the scientists have a contribution, politicians have businessmen have a contribution, but spiritual leaders have a contribution as well. And that contribution, their contribution, should either give us inspiration to go through hard times, or should give us foresight. And that gift we adopt and say, now what do we do? And because kings always consulted, and still to date, the president has already confessed that there are people he consults in private. So in the same way, what do we do? And of course, if that is to play out, if that is to play out as he has spoken, when it is happening, the nation and the leaders should know that the reason it is playing out is because there's some advice. We have not recognized. And you've seen the religious policy, we've seen these CID things and the like. So it shows that there isn't goodwill, there's not been goodwill. But I believe, and he says, gives a picture that the country will be stuck. No sources of money and the like. So we need to find a way on how do we say, we know you have this. We don't know how you have it,
but
how you
can
get
we
it,
cultivate it?
but how can we utilize it, benefit? Because if somebody is making money, we don't know how they're making the money. They've not gone to business school, but they're making the money. I need the money. Well, you go to say, whichever way you do it, show me how you do it.
He also prophesied that Zimbabwe's Mnangagwa might not come back because an opponent might be actually in the offing to unseat Mnangagwa, but Mnangagwa would actually throw this opponent into jail, which would be a bad idea and it would cause chaos. Yes.
He indicates, he doesn't say he may not come back. He says that indeed there will be someone rising in opposition and that he's like the president of Zimbabwe is likely to put him in jail, and he called on praying for that. Let's pray for that so that the country does not hang in the balance, because it creates a situation that is a political balance situation for the economy. There's also another about the country, Uganda. There was a...
Do you think it's Nelson Chamisa?
I really don't know who it is, but it would be a good to figure out who are the faces that are coming out.
Actually, Nelson Chamisa actually put up some kind of resistance in the last election, so I think yes,
he's likely to be
opponent. Yes, in that regard.
What about? I also see an opportunity for our foreign affairs in this, because this is intel, and you know what foreign affairs and diplomacy do? Exchange intelligence.
So and the Canadian the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he just won elections, and then the prophet is saying actually he might be removed.
Yes, this year.
Why?
So I'm not sure why, but you can see there's a trend going on around the world. The kind of
could it be because of the blackface accusations he was facing?
Ideally, he says it's good news for the Christians. So if he says it's good news for the Christians, you've seen how the evangelicals celebrate Trump.
True.
Yeah, so it's likely that's the trend, that Christians are. I think
conservative might be taking over.
Yeah, exactly. That could be the trend in the
Collins
in the world.
Tugumisit is a fellow who flocks Zoe Fellowship Ministries right there. But he also is a consultant and an economist in that regard. I actually did task him to tell me, as an economist who bases on facts, how is he listening to the hypothesis of a prophet in that regard? But he says, yes, for disaster risk management, you need to listen to these prophets because sometimes they are right. My name is Romeo Bisiku. Let's take another short breather, and I shall return with a conversation basing on sexual violence in universities. Marion is ready here.